The taxi sputtered to a halt in front of the towering glass building, Maison de Vérité, the most exclusive fashion house in Mumbai. The revolving doors spun with people far more polished than Asha, whose simple cotton kurta, though neatly pressed, looked like a relic from another world in the sea of silk, stilettos, and Swarovski. She clutched her portfolio, a brown faux leather file worn at the edges. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of knowing this was her only shot. Her brother had told her to trust herself. "You belong in that room as much as they do," he'd said, but the whisper of his encouragement faded the moment she stepped into the lobby. A silence fell the moment she walked in. The receptionist, Gia, raised a perfectly arched brow. "Delivery," at the side entrance. Asha cleared her throat. "I'm here to present my designs. My name's Asha Mehta. I have an appointment with Ms. Sahana Roy." Gia smirked. "Ms. Roy doesn't take walk-ins." "I have an email. Look, it's right." Before she could finish, a woman descended from the spiral staircase like she was floating. Sahana Roy, the creative director. Draped in structured crimson couture and flanked by two junior designers, she didn't even look at Asha before speaking. "Who let this in?" A ripple of laughter echoed behind her. "I emailed you," Asha said, voice steady. "Your assistant said." "You emailed me?" Sahana's eyes finally found hers. "And that entitled you to interrupt a pre-show review with, what exactly?" "A file full of sketches done in ballpoint pen." Asha's face burned. Someone from the back piped up, "Is this a prank, like a charity audition?" The laughter was louder this time. Asha stood frozen, feeling every gaze slice through her skin. The room smelled of expensive perfume and disdain. Her fingers clutched the folder tighter. "I'm not asking for charity," she said, softly but firmly. "I'm just asking for a chance." Sahana walked up to her slowly, the clack of her heels punctuating every word. "Then here's your chance," she said, taking the folder, flipping it open, and without a glance dropped it into a silver trash can nearby. The silence was absolute. "Now leave," Sahana whispered, her voice laced with venom, "before someone calls security." Asha turned, her spine straight despite the sting in her eyes. The walls of Maison de Vérité had spoken. And outside, her phone buzzed. Long before the glimmering hallways of Maison de Vérité spat her out, Asha Mehta was the rising star of Indigo Stitch, a grassroots fashion studio in Jaipur known for blending heritage weaves with modern silhouettes. At just 23, she designed a capsule collection that went viral on social media, not for celebrity endorsements, but for its heart. And at the center of it all was her mentor, Devika Arora, a former fashion editor turned designer known for giving young, underdog creators a platform. Asha adored her. Devika had been the first to see her sketchbook and say, "You're not just good, Asha, you're necessary." For 2 years, Asha worked under her, unpaid at first, then underpaid, gladly pouring herself into the studio. She wasn't just learning design, she was learning politics, placement, the tightrope walk of grace and grit. They were a team, or so she believed. Then came the Fashion India Rising Showcase. Asha's collection, Threadbare Royalty, was selected as a finalist. It was everything she'd ever dreamed of, regal, restrained, bold. Her name was on the entry form, the concept was hers, and Devika had promised, "This is your moment." But the day of the event, her pass wouldn't scan. Her name wasn't on the list. Confused, she waited outside until a friend slipped her in, just in time to see Devika walking the runway, claiming the designs as her own. The label on the screen read, "Devika Arora, the Revivalist." She had taken Asha's work, tweaked a seam here, added a sleeve there, and erased her completely. Heart racing, Asha tried to confront her backstage. "You owe me everything," Devika said coldly. "Those designs came from my studio, under my guidance. You want credit? Go start your own label and see how far you get without me." The betrayal didn't end there. Asha turned to her closest friend at the studio, Meher, expecting comfort, but Meher refused to meet her eyes. "They're offering me head designer," she whispered. "You understand, right? I need this." That night, Asha left without her sketches, her materials, everything she'd built over 2 years. The industry labeled her unstable, dramatic, disloyal. The final blow came days later when fashion blogs posted a scandal leaked by Devika's PR team, falsely accusing Asha of trying to sabotage the show out of jealousy. Screenshots were doctored, emails edited. Her reputation was smeared. She returned to Mumbai with a suitcase, a shattered name, and no job. But she wasn't broken, just quiet. She took a job at a printing press. She spent nights sketching anonymously online, posting under the pseudonym Threadbare Bird. Her work gained attention, ironically, even from the same influencers who'd laughed at her, but she never revealed her identity. Until last week, when she got an email from Mason de Verite inviting Threadbare Bird for a confidential review. That was the moment she decided. No more silence. The ballroom of the Grand Orem Hotel glittered with excess. Chandelier light shimmered off sequin gowns and champagne flutes. The Indo-Luxe Fashion Gala was the kind of event where appearances weren't just everything, they were currency. Asha had never been invited before. Tonight, she didn't wait for an invitation. She stepped inside wearing her own creation, a sleek indigo dress stitched by hand made from repurposed textiles, a quiet rebellion against the silk lace spectacle around her. Her presence drew double takes immediately, not because of the dress but because she was wearing it. The woman once labeled unstable, the girl who had supposedly faked a scandal and accused a respected designer, she had no place here. The whispers started before she reached the registration table. Influencers tilted their phones for discreet videos. One giggled, "Oh my God, is that her, the threadbare freak?" Another chimed in, "She looks like she stitched that dress from a curtain." Asha tried to keep her head high. She had checked the guest list a dozen times. Her online alias Threadbare Bird had been formally invited by a jury member. This wasn't trespassing. It was recognition. But the security guard at the entrance barely glanced at her before stepping in front of her path. "Ma'am, I'll have to ask you to step aside." "I'm invited," she said, reaching into her bag. "I have the confirmation email right here." Before she could retrieve it, the giant LED screen behind the stage flickered to life. On it flashed photos of emerging designers in tonight's showcase, faces framed in golden borders. Asha's designs were there, but her name was. Under each piece the credit read, Concept, Meher Singh label, Devika Arora Studios. A gasp escaped her lips before she could catch it. In a sudden panic, she looked around, hoping irrationally that someone else noticed, that someone would come forward, say there been a mistake. But instead, Meher herself appeared near the bar, holding a glass of wine, laughing easily among models. She spotted Asha. For a moment, her smile faltered, then she turned her back. Asha's vision blurred. It wasn't just theft, it was mockery. Her ideas, stolen again, paraded on stage as someone else's triumph. And then, as if on cue, a spotlight shifted to her. Someone had tipped off the host. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC announced with a smirk, "we seem to have a surprise guest. A figure from fashion's recent, drama-filled past. Let's hear it for the original Threadbare Bird, or as the tabloids called her, the crying designer." Laughter rippled through the crowd like poison in champagne. Asha froze, every muscle locked in place. A camera light blinked red in her direction. Someone nearby whispered, "Does she really think she can walk back in like nothing happened?" The security guard touched her elbow again, more forceful this time. "You're not welcome here, ma'am." And just like that, she was escorted through a hall of cameras, whispers, and laughter, alone. Outside, under the neon pink hotel sign, her hands shook as she unlocked her phone. She stared at the email again. The invitation had been real. The betrayal had been calculated. They wanted her to show up. They wanted a spectacle. A notification flashed on her screen. "Threadbare scam is trending." Hundreds of posts, cruel captions, slowed down videos of her being walked out, calling her delusional, thirsty, pathetic. She stood still, heart pounding, breath shallow. Then slowly she smiled. They had handed her everything she needed. The next morning, the fashion world buzzed with toxic glee. The hashtags hadn't stopped trending. #Threadbare scam, fashion fool, attention seeker. Clips of Asha's meltdown at the gala were being shared on influencer pages with millions of followers. She was, once again, the industry's favorite punchline. But Asha didn't flinch. She sat in a dim cafe tucked between two closed tailoring shops, laptop open, fingers steady. Across from her, Ryan, a quiet, bespectacled tech assistant, scrolled through his files. "Everything backed up and time-stamped," he said. "From your original sketches to the back-end IP of your posts as Threadbare Bird, there's no doubt this is your work." Asha exhaled. "Good, we go live in an hour." Ryan looked at her. "Are you sure you want to go public now? This is war, they'll fight dirty." She smiled without humor. They already did. At exactly 1:00 p.m., a tweet appeared on the freshly created account at The Real Threadbare. It read, They told me I was nothing, stole my work, destroyed my name. Here's what they didn't steal, the truth, threadbare revealed thread. Attached was a thread of evidence, side-by-side comparisons of her original sketches and the modified designs Devika and Meher had claimed, timestamps, drafts, internal emails, voice notes, and finally video clips. One of Meher recorded 6 months ago, casually bragging in a parking space about how Asha's too soft to fight back. We're just speeding up her ideas with better branding. The post went viral in minutes. Journalists picked it up immediately, comments flipped. The same influencers who'd mocked her were now scrambling to delete their posts or issue performative apologies, but it was too late, the narrative had shifted. That evening, fashion blogger Tara Nair, known for her no-nonsense breakdowns of industry politics, posted a 5-minute reel. The threadbare exposé is the biggest fashion plagiarism scandal in recent memory. This isn't just about stolen designs, it's about how the industry protects the powerful and silences the original voices. Asha Mehta's evidence is solid. Devika Arora and Meher Singh have a lot to answer for. By 9:00 p.m., #Justice for Threadbare had overtaken every trending list in the country. But the moment that truly changed everything came not from a blog or a tweet, but from a room full of flashing cameras. Asha stood on a small stage at a local fashion ethics forum, flanked by legal counsel and a newly aligned group of independent designers. The press conference had been planned quietly, but the room was packed. She took the mic, voice calm, eyes steady. For years, I believed that being silent made me dignified, that if I stayed quiet, I'd earn respect back. But silence doesn't protect the truth, it buries it. I was wronged, and now I'm speaking, not just for me, but for every designer who's ever been erased. The room erupted in applause. And somewhere in a private office high above the city, Sahana Roy, watching the broadcast with a pale face and a trembling glass of wine, realized this wasn't just noise. This was the beginning of the end. The boardroom of the Fashion Federation of India had never been so full. Cameras lined the back wall. Rows of reporters clutched their notepads like weapons. At the head of the table sat the Federation's president, stone-faced, flanked by legal advisors. The air was taut with anticipation, like fabric stretched to its limit. At the center of it all stood Asha, calm and unflinching in a simple hand-woven sari, her quiet protest against the industry that once told her she wasn't polished enough. This isn't a matter of opinions, she began, sliding a hard drive across the table. It's a matter of fact, of authorship, of ethics. The drive was connected to a projector. The lights dimmed. The first image appeared, her original sketch of the threadbare royalty jacket, date-stamped, scanned from her notebook 2 years ago. Then the next slide, Devika's claimed design, identical except for the embroidery placement. Slide after slide played. Sketches, color palettes, mood boards, voice memos she'd sent Meher during their time together, emails from the shared studio account, a video clip of Asha explaining a pleating technique used verbatim in the runway piece Devika showcased. Every detail, every pixel, pointed in one direction. The truth. Whispers rippled through the room. A former associate lawyer, now assisting pro bono, stepped forward next. "We filed a copyright claim against Devika Arora Studios, citing intellectual property theft, misrepresentation, and defamation. We've also filed injunctions to stop further distribution of the stolen designs." At the back of the room, journalists murmured, already typing headlines. But it was the final piece of evidence that struck like thunder. A recorded Zoom call between Meher and Devika, leaked by a remorseful junior staffer, played on the screen. In it, Meher's voice could be heard clearly. "She'll never fight back, Devika. Let her cry about it on Twitter. We've already bought half the media silence anyway." Gasps filled the room. No one was laughing now. The Federation president leaned into his mic. "This will go to a formal ethics panel. Effective immediately, Devika Arora Studios is suspended from Federation recognition pending investigation. All award nominations are frozen. Legal proceedings will follow." Outside the building, a crowd had formed. Supporters, young designers, fashion students holding up placards. "Designers deserve credit. Threadbare, not voiceless. Power to the original." Asha walked through them, not triumphant, free. She didn't smile for the cameras, she didn't need to. The evidence had spoken, the industry had heard her. And Devika's empire, it had just begun to shake. The glass tower of Devika Arora Studios had always been a monument to excess: pristine floors, curated silence, and the soft scent of imported eucalyptus oil in the lobby. But today, the silence felt different, heavier, fragile, like something terrible had passed through and left the air changed. Devika stood in her corner office, staring at her phone. The press release from the Fashion Federation had just gone live. Effective immediately, the Federation suspends Devika Arora Studios from all affiliated events pending investigation into copyright fraud and unethical business practices. All future collaborations, funding, and awards are hereby frozen. She scrolled again, refreshed, as if it would somehow disappear. It didn't. A knock at the door interrupted her spiral. It was Ria, her PR manager, sharp, polished, always 10 seconds ahead of disaster. Except now she looked like disaster had already won. Devika, Ria said, closing the door behind her, we have a serious situation. I'm aware. No, Ria said firmly, this is worse than you think. 3 sponsors have pulled out. The investor call was a bloodbath. We're trending on every platform for all the wrong reasons. Even GQ India is roasting us. Damage control, Devika snapped. We do a statement, say the designs were collaborative, that Asha was emotionally unstable and we tried to help her. Spin it. Ria didn't flinch. That used to work, yes, but not when there are videos, receipts, a Zoom call. You were recorded mocking her. This isn't just a bad headline, Devika, it's evidence. It's a scandal, legally binding. Devika's jaw clenched. This is jealousy. She wants to tear down everything I built. She didn't tear it down, you did. Silence, the kind that makes people question everything they thought they controlled. Do you know who else called this morning? Ria continued. Lakme, they've pulled your opening slot, said your presence would undermine their integrity, and the British Textile Council has withdrawn their upcoming collaboration with you. Devika turned away, as if the city outside her window would offer a better view than the truth unfolding inside. Downstairs, the lobby was no longer filled with interns carrying fabric samples or clients sipping espresso. It was chaos: press, protesters, and staff exiting with boxes in hand. The receptionist was gone. HR had stopped answering calls. The empire wasn't just cracking. It was crumbling. In a conference room on the 6th floor, the investors had gathered, each one more furious than the last. Leading them was Rajiv Marwa, the principal backer who had once called Devika the Chanel of Jaipur. I didn't sign up to fund a fraud, he said bluntly. My inbox is full of refund demands from luxury retailers. They don't want your name on their racks anymore. We'll fix this, Devika began. You won't fix anything, he interrupted. You're toxic now. Every move you make makes it worse. We've already started exit negotiations, and if you try to fight it, we'll file for breach of contract and misrepresentation. Devika sat back stunned. Rajiv stood, and one more thing, your brother's fund has withdrawn too. Even family doesn't want to be associated with you. The weight of those words landed like a final stone. Family, the one thing Devika had always used as armor, and now, nothing. Across the city, news channels looped Asha's speech and replayed excerpts from the leaked Zoom call. An hour-long exposé aired on national TV, hosted by a celebrated anchor who called the scandal a mirror held to an industry built on silence and exploitation. And while Devika's walls collapsed, Asha's inbox overflowed, not with apologies but with opportunities. Small brands reached out, indie designers asked for mentorship. Even a former Vogue editor emailed her, "You remind me what this industry is supposed to be about. Let's talk." At the same time, Meher Singh, who had once laughed in Asha's face, tried to release a statement distancing herself from the theft. But the video of her bragging had done irreversible damage. Her statement was ratioed online within minutes. Her followers tanked. By evening, the boutique she was supposed to launch had canceled the event and quietly scrubbed her name from its website. Meanwhile, back in Devika's tower, her assistant entered quietly with a stack of legal notices. More letters, Devika asked, barely looking up. Notices of termination, contracts nullified, 1 from the gallery, 2 from the production house, and 1 from your book publisher. My book. The assistant nodded. They've shelved the release, said they won't publish a memoir from someone currently under ethics investigation. Devika didn't speak. Her gaze drifted to the framed cover mock-up hanging on her wall, unthreaded, How I Sowed My Empire. Ronick. In a final act of desperation, she scheduled an Instagram Live. She appeared on screen, hair brushed, eyes weary but defiant. She tried to speak about misunderstandings, collaborations gone wrong, and the nuances of creative partnerships. But the comments section was brutal. Give Asha her name back. Say sorry, not spin. No one believes you. Your time is up. She ended the live early, silent, defeated. That night, as the city glowed with festival lights, Devika sat alone in her penthouse, surrounded by fashion awards that now felt like evidence in a crime scene. Her phone buzzed, one final message. It was from a former apprentice. I believed in you once, never again. And just like that, the last thread snapped. The building didn't look like much from the outside. A repurposed textile warehouse in Delhi's quieter quarter, walls weathered, windows mismatched, but to Asha, it was perfect. It wasn't polished marble or gold-gilded doors like Devika's tower, but it was real, earned every inch of it. She stepped inside and inhaled the familiar scent of fabric glue and raw cotton. The renovation wasn't done, there were wires exposed, plywood planks along the wall, but there was space, and silence, and potential. This would be Threadbare Studio. After weeks of headlines, lawsuits, and a million think pieces dissecting the downfall of Devika Arora Studios, the media's attention had begun to shift. But Asha's momentum hadn't slowed. If anything, she was finally moving with the speed that had always been denied to her. Her phone buzzed. It was Ryan, her tech partner. Website mockup ready, sending the beta version now. I've also linked the pre-orders tab, 10K waitlist already. She smiled. 10,000. Across the room, her new team of interns, 4 wide-eyed design students from government colleges who had never once been invited to a fashion gala, gathered around bolts of fabric. Ma'am, is this the final color palette for the second skin line? One of them asked shyly. Asha walked over and touched the swatch, a soft indigo dyed in Jaipur, interwoven with recycled silver thread. Yes, it's not just a palette, she said gently, it's a statement. Threadbare's first collection wasn't going to scream revenge, it was going to breathe restoration. Every piece would use indigenous textiles, recycled elements, and minimalist silhouettes that honored comfort, not just spectacle. It would be everything her past life had rejected. I don't want us to mimic anyone, she told her team. No European cuts, no borrowed drama, our edge is our honesty. The interns nodded, scribbling in their notebooks with reverence. As she turned to leave, she paused and added, and no one here works past 6 p.m. I don't care if Paris is watching. We build healthy. The studio erupted in smiles. Already this space was becoming what Asha never had, a sanctuary for dreamers with rough hands and big hearts. By the second week, the studio was buzzing. Local artisans from Gujarat and Odisha had signed contracts to collaborate. NGOs working with women survivors of domestic abuse reached out to provide tailoring training in return for employment. Asha said yes to all of it. Let Threadbare be stitched with more than thread, she told her assistant. Let it carry lives. Even the press, always eager to twist narratives, couldn't deny what was happening. Features poured in from Elle, the voice of India, the Guardian's India section. Headlines changed their tune from fashion's fallen girl fights back to from silence to spotlight, the rise of Asha Mehta's ethical empire. Threadbare is the future, and it's beautiful. Finally, a fashion brand for the rest of us. Still, for all the noise, Asha kept her circle tight. Priya, a fellow designer who had once hesitated to support her, now visited every other day, often bringing food and updates from the industry. She told Asha how many of Devika's former staff were now jobless. They're afraid to reach out, Priya said. They think you'll shut the door in their face. Asha looked up from a stitching frame, then tell them it's open. 2 days later, 13 former employees of Devika Arora Studios quietly walked into Threadbare, one by one. Some were interns who'd been exploited, others were mid-level designers who had known the truth but couldn't speak. Asha didn't lecture or gloat. She simply pointed to the fabric stacks and said, if you still believe in design, grab a seat. That night, the studio stayed lit until midnight, not because of deadlines, but because no one wanted to leave. They worked with music playing and chai on rotation. Stories flowed, laughter too. Healing, it turned out, was not a quiet thing, it roared. Meanwhile, Ashah's brother Kunal had been keeping a low profile since the day he fired Sahana Roy in public. Though media dubbed him the protective tycoon, he never gave interviews. His support came through funding, legal protection, and showing up quietly, consistently. One evening, Ashah found him waiting at the studio door with 2 boxes in hand. "Imported embroidery machines," he said with a grin. "Swiss, state-of-the-art." She raised an eyebrow. "You didn't need to." "You're my sister," he cut in. "I didn't do enough when they humiliated you. Let me do something now." She softened. "You did. You walked in and ended it." Kunal shook his head. "No, you ended it. I just kicked open the door." They stood there for a moment, siblings once divided by class and pride, now bound by respect. The next month, Threadbare's pre-launch runway event was announced, not in Paris or Mumbai but in Delhi's Daryaganj district, inside a restored paper mill. The invite was simple, a digital card with no photos, no guest list drama, just words. "You don't need to be powerful to be beautiful, you just need to be seen." Ashah didn't walk the red carpet that night. She walked the final runway, hand in hand with her interns and artisans. No celebrities, no influencers, just makers. Each piece that debuted received a standing ovation, not for shock value but for soul. Saris made from repurposed wedding silks, jackets lined with poetry and forgotten languages, linen dresses dyed with turmeric and pomegranate skin. The models, all local women, tailors, schoolteachers, weavers, even a bus conductor. The audience wept. Critics for once ran out of snide remarks. "This wasn't fashion," one journalist wrote, "it was reclamation." And backstage, Ashah finally let herself cry, quietly, for everything she had lost and everything she had found. In the following weeks, the first drop of Threadbare sold out within hours. More than a brand, it had become a movement. Fashion schools began citing her interviews in lectures. Designers from South Korea, Nigeria, and Brazil wrote in to collaborate. A Paris-based incubator offered her a pop-up studio, but she declined. "Threadbare was born here," she told her team. "It'll grow here." Meanwhile, the Federation announced a new set of ethical guidelines for design attribution, many of them inspired directly by her legal case. Her efforts had changed not just her life, but the rules of the entire game. One afternoon, she received a handwritten letter. It was from an elderly weaver in Tamil Nadu. "For years, no one remembered our work. You didn't just remember, you brought it back to life. You made us proud to be invisible no more." Ashah folded the letter slowly, placed it inside her sketchbook, and stared out the studio window. The sun was setting over the city, but for her, it was a new dawn. Ashah had never imagined she'd return to the Raj Mahal Convention Center, the site of her most public humiliation. The same velvet-carpeted corridor where security once dragged her out was now lined with floral installations and cameras flashing nonstop. But this time, no one blocked her path. She walked through the entrance in silence, her head held high, draped in a minimalist indigo sari from her own collection. No sequins, no grand logos, just the kind of elegance that didn't beg to be noticed, it demanded to be respected. A large banner read, "The 12th Annual Ethical Fashion Honors, celebrating those who stitch the future with integrity." And just below it, Lifetime Impact Award, Ashah Mehta Founder Threadbare. The applause when she entered the hall was thunderous. Influencers who once ignored her now stood to clap. Journalists whispered updates into mics, but Ashah wasn't looking for their approval anymore. She was here for something else, closure. The event flowed with polite speeches and delicate PR gestures, but when Ashah's name was finally called, the room shifted. She stepped onto the stage alone, no entourage, no drama. Just silence and every eye watching. She took the mic, looked out across the sea of faces, and began. 2 years ago, I stood at this very venue, but I wasn't standing. I was being dragged out. Not because I was violent. Not because I broke a rule. But because I had the audacity to exist in a space someone decided wasn't meant for people like me. I was shamed not just publicly, but systematically. My work was stolen. My name erased. My voice mocked. And when I tried to speak, they called me bitter. When I stayed silent, they called me weak. But what they forgot was that silence isn't surrender, sometimes it's strategy. I didn't come here tonight to clap back. I came here to claim space. Not just for myself, but for every person in this room who has ever been told, you don't belong here. I built Threadbare not to compete, but to redefine. We are not the alternative. We are the future. The applause started slow, then rose like a wave crashing across the entire ballroom. Some stood, others wept, but everyone felt it. This wasn't a speech. It was a reckoning. Backstage, a figure approached, hesitant, polished, hollow-eyed. It was Sahana Roy, the same woman who once led the campaign to erase Asha's name. Can we talk? Sahana said softly. Asha studied her face, still beautiful, still cold, but now cracked. I'm not here for apologies, Asha said evenly. Good, Sahana replied, I'm not here to give one. Asha tilted her head, then why are you here? Sahana hesitated, then said, because I can't fix the past, but maybe I can support the future. I've stepped down from Devika's board. I'm starting a fund for ethical design programs in rural areas. I want to collaborate under your leadership. Asha paused, then smiled without softness. Do it, she said, but not for me. Do it because you finally understand what we lost while chasing luxury. Sahana nodded. Asha walked away. Forgiveness didn't need to be loud. Sometimes it was simply walking past the wound without bleeding again. Outside the hall, the night air was crisp. Asha stepped away from the buzz and into the stillness of the garden. A familiar voice called out. It was Kunal, her brother. Proud of you, Ash, he said, handing her a bottle of water like a coach after a match. I didn't think it would feel this peaceful, she said. You didn't get revenge, he replied. You got restoration. That always feels better. She looked at him, then up at the stars. Remember when I was a little girl and I used to sketch dresses in your room? You made paper saris for Mom's old Barbie, he laughed. Asha smiled.